The shotgun blast echoed off the jagged peaks like a thunderclap from hell, shattering the dawn's fragile peace and sending a flock of ravens exploding from the pines. Russell's hands trembled as he lowered the barrel, the acrid smoke curling from the muzzle like a ghost refusing to die, his heart pounding not from fear but from the raw, unfiltered rage that had finally broken free after years of silence. In that split second, as the intruder's shadow flickered across his security feed, her silhouette unmistakable even in the grainy infrared, he knew this wasn't just trespassing. It was the ghost of his past clawing its way back to claim what he'd buried deep in these Tennessee hills. Russell slammed the truck door, the rusted hinges groaning in protest against the chill mountain air that bit at his knuckles like an old grudge. The gravel crunched under his boots as he stormed toward the cabin. The weight of the Remington slung over his shoulder, a cold comfort against the knot twisting in his gut. It was barely 6 a.m., the sun still a rumor behind the Smoky Mountains. But sleep had been a stranger since Lewis arrived 3 months ago, turning Russell's solitary existence into something dangerously close to hope. Now this cop's on the way because of her. Evelyn. His ex-sister-in-law, the venomous shadow from his Nashville days. The one who'd sworn she'd make him pay for walking away from the family empire, from the lies, from everything. He'd met Lewis in a dive bar off Broadway, the kind where neon signs flickered like dying fireflies and the air smelled of stale beer and broken dreams. Russell had been nursing a whiskey, fresh off a brutal divorce that left him with nothing but a battered F-150 and a one-way ticket to these godforsaken hills. He'd inherited the farm from his grandfather. A sprawling 200 acres of timber, wild blueberries, and isolation that promised rebirth but delivered only echoes. Lewis, with his city-sharp jawline and eyes like polished obsidian, had slid onto the stool next to him, ordering a gin and tonic with the casual grace of someone who'd never known dirt under his nails. "You look like a man who's allergic to smiling," Lewis had said, his voice a low drawl that cut through the twang of a George Strait cover band. Russell had glanced over, expecting the usual pickup line. But there was no leer, just genuine curiosity wrapped in a half-smile that made Russell's chest tighten in a way he hadn't felt since high school locker rooms and stolen glances. "Smiling's overrated when life's kicking your ass," Russell replied, surprised at his own candor. They talked for hours about the grind of corporate Nashville, Lewis's failed architecture firm, the way the city chewed up souls and spat out husks. By last call, Russell had given him the farm's address, half joking. "If you ever need to escape the concrete jungle, there's a guest cabin with your name on it." Lewis showed up 2 weeks later, duffel bag in hand, and just like that, the farm wasn't so empty anymore. Those early days were a revelation. Lewis, with his quick laugh and hands that knew how to coax life from soil he'd never touched before, turned the overgrown vegetable patch into a riot of tomatoes and basil. They'd work side by side under the relentless Appalachian sun, sweat mingling with the earthy scent of turned soil, and in the quiet moments, when the hoe paused and their shoulders brushed, something electric passed between them. It wasn't fireworks. It was a slow-burning ember, the kind that warms you through a winter storm. Their first kiss happened on a porch swing at midnight, fireflies dancing like hesitant confessions. Lewis's lips tentative against Russell's, tasting of sweet tea and unspoken fears. But Evelyn had always been the storm cloud on Russell's horizon. Married to his brother Marcus once upon a time, she'd been the architect of the family's downfall, pushing Marcus into deals that soured, whispering poisons about Russell's lifestyle. When he came out at 28, a bombshell that splintered the Brooks dynasty like cheap glass. Marcus died in a car wreck 2 years later, drunk and raging, and Evelyn blamed Russell, her grief twisting into a vendetta that followed him into exile. "You'll never outrun the truth," she'd hissed at the funeral, her red-rimmed eyes promising war. Now, as Russell reached the cabin, the security app buzzed on his phone. Footage time-stamped 5:47 a.m. There she was, Evelyn, slipping through the lower pasture fence like a fox in the henhouse, her designer boots sinking into the mud she'd once called barbaric. She carried a flashlight, beams slicing the dark toward the old barn where Russell kept his grandfather's journals, the ones detailing the farm's hidden mineral rights, worth millions if exploited. Russell's blood ran cold. She'd found out about the surveys he'd commissioned last month. the quiet bid to secure his future with Lewis. Trespassing was one thing. This was theft wrapped in malice. He burst through the cabin door, the screen slamming behind him. Lewis was at the kitchen table, coffee mug halfway to his lips. His dark hair tousled from sleep, wearing nothing but Russell's old Tennessee Titans hoodie that hung loose on his lean frame. "What the hell, Russ? I heard a shot." "Evelyn," Russell growled, thrusting the phone at him. Lewis's eyes widened as the video played. Evelyn's face caught in stark relief. Her lips curled in that familiar sneer. "She's after the journals. Called the cops on me for threatening her life when the cameras pinged her. Said I fired at her." Lewis set the mug down with a clink, standing to pull Russell into a fierce embrace, his arms an anchor in the chaos. "Breathe. We'll handle this. Cops'll see the feed. It's clear as day." But Russell could feel the tremor in Lewis's voice, the undercurrent of doubt. Lewis had his own ghosts. A conservative family in Atlanta who disowned him when he came out. A brother who'd once beaten him bloody for shaming them. Trust didn't come easy, and Evelyn's shadow threatened to eclipse the fragile light they'd built. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as they crested the ridge. Russell pulled back, cupping Lewis's face in calloused hands, thumbs tracing the sharp line of his cheekbones. "I won't let her touch this, sus. You hear me?" Lewis nodded, but his eyes held a flicker of something unspoken, a hesitation that Russell chalked up to the adrenaline. Deputy Harlan pulled up first, his cruiser kicking up dust like an accusation. A burly man with a mustache that screamed small-town authority. He unfolded from the cab, notepad in hand. "Mr. Brooks? Got a call about a shots fired and trespassing." "Ma'am," over the line sounded pretty hysterical. "Check the cameras," Russell said flatly, gesturing to the barn. Harlan grunted, following him over, Lewis trailing like a shadow. The deputy watched the footage twice, his bushy brows knitting tighter each pass. Evelyn's voiceover from the 911 tape played tinny through the speaker. "He's gonna kill me. I know it. That farm's mine by rights. Marcus would have wanted." "Bullshit," Harlan muttered, snapping the tablet shut. "This is harassment, plain and simple. I'll run her off, file a report. You got rights here, Russ. Deeper roots than she ever will." As the deputy radioed in, Russell felt a surge of vindication, but it soured quick when his phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "You think cameras tell the whole story? Ask your pretty boy about Atlanta." The words hit like a sucker punch, and Russell's gaze snapped to Lewis, who was staring at the ground, fists clenched. What the hell did Evelyn know that he didn't? The morning dragged into a tense standoff. Harlan escorted Evelyn off the property. Her parting shot a venomous glare through the cruiser's window, but the damage lingered like smoke after the fire. Russell and Lewis retreated to the cabin, the air thick with unspoken questions. They made breakfast in silence, eggs sizzling in the cast-iron skillet, the sizzle masking the crackle of fracture lines forming. Finally, over plates of over-easy and toast, Lewis broke. "Russ, there's something," but Russell cut him off, the text burning a hole in his pocket. "Atlanta, what happened there? And don't sugarcoat it." Lewis's fork clattered against porcelain, his face paling. "It's nothing. Old family crap. My brother. He found out about me, about us types. Beat me bad enough I landed in the ER. I left and never looked back." Russell searched his eyes, seeing the raw edges of truth but sensing the gloss. "Evelyn knows." "How?" Lewis shrugged, too casual. "Small world. Where she dug. She's got resources." Marcus's estate left her loaded. It rang half true, but the ember of doubt flickered brighter. They spent the day fortifying, resetting cameras, boarding up the barn's weak spots. But the farm felt smaller, the mountains closing in like judgmental elders. That night, as rain lashed the tin roof, they lay tangled in sheets worn soft from too many washes. Lewis's head on Russell's chest, heartbeat a steady drum against the storm. "I love you," Lewis whispered into the dark, words fragile as spider silk. "Love you more," Russell murmured, but sleep evaded him, Evelyn's text looping like a curse. Little did he know, the real trespasser wasn't on the cameras at all. It was the secrets they'd both carried up the mountain, waiting to avalanche. The next week blurred into a fragile normalcy, the kind stitched together with routine and denial. Russell threw himself into the farm's rhythm, chopping cordwood until his shoulders screamed, mending fences that snaked like veins through the underbrush, the axe head biting deep into oak as if to cleave away the unease gnawing at him. Lewis dove into designs, sketching sustainable expansions for the property on graph paper spread across the oak table. Solar panels cresting the ridge, a greenhouse hugging the south slope, turning the farm into a haven not just for them but for others like them. Queer folks burned out on city bigotry, seeking solace in soil and silence. It was Lewis's idea, born from late-night talks by the fireplace, embers popping like punctuation to their dreams. "We could call it Sanctuary Ridge," he'd say, his voice alight with that architect's fire, fingers tracing invisible blueprints on Russell's thigh. "A place where love doesn't have to hide behind barn doors." Russell would chuckle, pulling him closer, the warmth of possibility chasing shadows. But Evelyn's incursion had cracked the foundation, and every creak of the cabin settled like a reminder. One crisp October afternoon, as leaves turned the holler into a blaze of crimson and gold, they hiked the upper trail to Devil's Overlook, a sheer drop-off where the world fell away in a vertigo of valleys and mist. Russell packed a thermos of black coffee and Lewis's favorite peanut butter sandwiches, the path familiar as his own scars. They walked in companionable quiet, hands brushing occasionally, the touch a tether against the wind's howl. At the ledge, they sat on a weathered boulder, legs dangling over the abyss, the Tennessee River a silver thread far below. Lewis leaned against Russell's side, exhaling slow. "Remember that first storm? You thought I'd bolt back to the city when the power flickered out." Russell grinned, ruffling Lewis's hair. "Figured you'd melt in the dark. City boys and their fancy apps." Lewis laughed, the sound pure and unforced, chasing the week's tension. "Nah, I stayed 'cause of you. This you feels like home." He turned, cupping Russell's neck, drawing him into a kiss that tasted of salt and wild air, deep and unhurried, the kind that spoke volumes without words. Russell's hand slid to Lewis's waist, pulling him flush, the world narrowing to the heat between them, the steady thrum of shared breath. But as the sun dipped, painting the sky in bruised purple hues, Lewis pulled back, his expression shifting to something guarded. "Russ, about Atlanta, I wasn't fully honest." Russell's stomach clenched, but he kept his voice even. "Lay it out. No judgments." Lewis stared at the horizon, words tumbling like loose stones. "My family's old money cotton mills turned real estate. Dad's a senator, Mom's the perfect hostess. When I came out at 22, it was apocalypse. Brother Jake, he didn't just hit me, he framed it as tough love to the cops. Said I attacked him. I got community service, he got a pat on the back. Left with bruises and a felony record that tanked my career. That's why the firm's gone. Clients don't trust trouble." The confession hung heavy, vulnerability raw as an open wound. Russell wrapped an arm around him, chin resting on Lewis's crown. "Christ, Lou, you carried that alone. Figured it was my burden. Didn't want to drag you into more mess. Evelyn, she must have hired a PI. She's got connections. Knew Marcus through Atlanta circles." Russell nodded, piecing it together, the text's barb blunted by truth. "She's grasping. The journals? They're leverage for a lawsuit, claiming Marcus's intent or some bullshit. But we're solid. Farms in my name. Clear title." They descended as dusk deepened, fireflies igniting like stars fallen early. That evening, over venison stew simmered with rosemary from Lewis's garden, they planned defenses, not just cameras, but legal. A call to Russell's old divorce lawyer in Knoxville. Laughter crept back, tentative at first, then full-throated as Lewis recounted a botched attempt at moonshine brewing, the batch exploding in a yeasty geyser that painted the ceiling like abstract art. Yet, as they cleared dishes, Russell's phone rang. Harlan again. "Russ, heads up. Evelyn filed a restraining order. Claims your unstable history of violence from the family file. Hearing set for next Tuesday in Sevierville. The spoon slipped from Russell's grip, clattering into the sink. Lewis froze mid-wipe, dish towel dangling. What the? She's escalating, Russell said, voice steel masking the quake. Pulling every string to paint me as the villain. Lewis's face hardened. A rare flash of Atlanta steel. We fight it. Together. The hearing loomed like a guillotine, forcing them into town clothes. Russell in starched khakis that chafed like lies. Lewis in a button-down that screamed boardroom. Sevierville Courthouse was a squat brick relic, halls echoing with the shuffle of the damned. Evelyn sat prim in the gallery, flanked by a slick attorney from Nashville, her eyes locking on Russell with predatory glee. "Missed me, brother-in-law?" she murmured as he passed, perfume cloying as deceit. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with silver-streaked hair, reviewed the footage impassively. Russell's lawyer, a wiry fox named Carla, dismantled Evelyn's claims. Timestamps debunked her threat narrative. The 911 call exposed as theater. Your Honor, this is a pattern of harassment from Ms. Hargrove, motivated by greed over a disputed inheritance. Evelyn's counsel countered with character smears. Russell's erratic isolation. Whispers of his sexuality as instability, the courtroom air thickening with unspoken homophobia. Lewis, testifying as witness, held steady. Russell's the steadiest man I know. Saved me when I had nothing. This farm's our life, our future. The gavel fell after 2 agonizing hours. Order denied. Evelyn slapped with a cease and desist. As they filed out, victory bittersweet, she cornered them in the parking lot. Rain spitting from a leaden sky. You think this ends it? Lewis, sweetie, your daddy sends his regards. Wouldn't want his secrets aired in court. Lewis went rigid, color draining. Russell stepped forward, towering. Back off, Evelyn. Or next time, it's not cameras. It's warrants. She laughed, a brittle shard. Warrants? For what? Loving too hard. Her gaze flicked to Lewis, loaded. Driving home through sheets of rain, Russell gripped the wheel white-knuckled. What secrets, Lou? Don't make me guess. Lewis stared out the window, wipers slashing like accusations. It's Jake. He didn't just frame me, he's the reason I ran. Stole firm contracts, pinned embezzlement on me. Dad covered it, called it family protection. If Evelyn digs, it's perjury. Prison. The admission cracked something fundamental, trust fracturing under the weight. Russell pulled over on a slick curve, engine idling. Why hide it? We're in this, all in. Because I was ashamed, Lewis whispered, tears carving tracks. Afraid you'd see me as broken cargo. They sat in silence, rain drumming requiem, until Russell reached over, interlacing fingers. Broken? Hell, we're both patched with duct tape and prayer. But hiding? That breaks us. Reconciliation came slow, forged in the cabin's hearth glow that night. Words poured, Russell's own buried shame over Marcus's death, the guilt of surviving. They held each other through the wee hours, bodies a map of scars and solace, love a defiant flame against the gathering dark. But Evelyn's threat lingered, a serpent in Eden, and as November frosted the fields, Russell installed more cameras. Unaware the real betrayal brewed not from her, but from the man beside him. Winter clamped down on the farm like a vice, snow blanketing the ridges in hush-white isolation, turning the world into a cocoon of crystal and quiet. Russell and Lewis hunkered in, the cabin a warm bastion against the gales that rattled windows like impatient ghosts. They felled pines for your logs, the chainsaws roar a cathartic bellow, and strung lights along the porch, tiny LEDs twinkling like defiant stars. For a spell, Evelyn faded to a bad dream, her silence a mocking gift, allowing them to nurture the sanctuary ridge vision. Lewis pored over blueprints, Russell sourcing reclaimed lumber from Knoxville auctions. Their shared purpose a balm on old wounds. Holiday came soft and sacred. No turkey, Lewis's vegan streak held firm, but a feast of roasted root vegetables, wild mushroom gravy, and apple pie baked with fruit from the orchard's last harvest. They exchanged gifts by candlelight, Russell a hand-carved walnut box for Lewis's sketches, engraved with hours. Lewis a leather-bound journal for Russell's farm notes, pages whispering of futures unwritten. That night, under a quilt pieced by Russell's grandmother, they made love. Not urgent, but reverent, hands mapping familiar terrain with the awe of rediscovery, whispers of forever sealing the cracks. But January brought omens. A letter arrived, postmarked Nashville, Evelyn's looping script on the envelope like barbed wire. Russell slid it open at the kitchen table, Lewis peering over his shoulder. Inside, a photocopy of Marcus's will, highlighted passages claiming familial oversight of the farm, and a note. Last chance. Sell to me or Lewis's Atlanta sins go public. Think of his career, your precious sanctuary. Rage boiled, but Russell tamped it, crumpling the paper. She's bluffing. Will's ironclad. Lawyer confirmed. Lewis's jaw tightened, though fingers drumming the table. What if she's not? Jake's got pull. One leak, and Sanctuary's DOA. Investors bolt from scandal. The doubt seeded, sprouting tendrils. Days later, while Russell scouted timber on the North 40, his phone pinged. A motion alert from the cabin cam. Not Evelyn this time, but Lewis, pacing the porch, phone to ear, voice tinny through the feed. Yeah. Jake, I know. But Russ, he's clean. Can't drag him. No, the farm's not leverage. Damn it. It's not that simple. Russell's blood iced. He revved the ATV back, arriving as Lewis hung up, face ashen. Who was that? Lewis startled, pocketing the phone. Wrong number. Telemarketer. Bull. I saw the feed. Jake? Silence stretched, taut as a bowstring. Lewis deflated, sinking onto the steps. He called. Out of the blue. Says Dad's sick cancer. Wants reconciliation. I told him no, but he dangled evidence. The real embezzlement logs. Said he'd bury them if I convinced you to sell a parcel for development. Some resort tie-in with Evelyn's backers. Russell's vision tunneled. Betrayal a blade between ribs. You're negotiating behind my back? After everything. It was a stall. I was protecting us. From what? Me? Russell paced, boots thudding hollow. This farm's my blood. Lou grandfather bled for it. And we built dreams here. Now you're trading acres for your family's scraps. Lewis surged up, eyes flashing. My family's poison, yeah, but Dad's dying. Doesn't make me a traitor. I hung up, told him to rot. The fight escalated, words weapons. Russell hurling accusations of duplicity, Lewis countering with pleas of desperation. Snow swirled, mirroring the storm indoors, until Lewis grabbed his coat. I need air. It's suffocating. He stormed to the guest cabin, door slamming finality. Russell stood frozen, the wind howling judgment, regret a tide rising. He didn't follow. Pride, that old Tennessee mule, held him back. Night fell heavy, the main cabin echoing with absence. Russell nursed a fire, staring into flames that mocked his isolation, memories replaying like a cruel reel. Lewis's laugh in the garden, his touch under starlight. By midnight, contrition gnawed, and he trudged through drifts to the guest house, knuckles rapping soft. No answer. Panic flickered. Lewis's truck was there, lights off. Russell jimmied the latch, a habit from boyhood mischief, and slipped in. Empty. Bed untouched, sketches scattered like fallen leaves. A note on the pillow, gone to Atlanta. Sort my head. Don't follow. Love, L. The words blurred. Gut punch. Russell sank to the floor, the cabin's chill seeping bone deep. Dawn found him there, hollowed, vowing silence. Days blurred into a numb routine, work by rote, meals solitary, the farm a mausoleum. He avoided the guest house, its vacancy a scar, but curiosity, or masochism, drew him one gray afternoon. Rifling drawers for closure, he found it. A burner phone, hidden under socks, text to Jake time-stamped post-fight. He's onto us. Push Evelyn, make the offer he can't refuse. Sanctuary dies if this leaks. Betrayal crystallized, sharp as hoarfrost. Not a stall, a scheme. Lewis, playing both sides, Evelyn's unwitting or witting? Pawn. Russell's roar echoed unanswered, fists pounding walls till knuckles split. He drove to Knoxville that evening, lawyer's office lit like a beacon. Full audit, he demanded, voice gravel. Every inch of title. And a PI on Lewis Hargrove. Wait, no. Lewis Reeves. Full background. Carla raised a brow but nodded. Costly but done. What's the play? Eviction notice if he's entangled. And countersuit defamation, the works. Back home, blizzard warnings blared. Wind sculpting drifts like accusations. Russell barricaded in. Whiskey his confessor. Toasting ghosts. Marcus's laugh. Grandfather's wisdom. Lewis's lie. Sleep came fitful, dreams of avalanche. Snow-burying love. Unearthing bones. February thawed uneasy. Carla's report landing like fallout. Lewis clean on paper. Felony expunged years back. But ties to Jake ran deeper. Shared bank transfers. Masked as loans. Totaling thousands. Looks like hush money, she said over coffee in town. Your boy's in bed with the devil, Russ. Metaphorically. Russell nodded, numb. Metaphorically's enough. He drafted the letter himself. Pen shaking. Leave the keys. Farm's closed to you. Don't come back. Mailed it certified, he waited, fortifying alone. Sanctuary Ridge. A joke now, blueprints ash in the hearth. But karma, that mountain trickster, twisted the knife. A week later, Harlan called. Lewis in a wreck. Atlanta Turnpike. Bad. Hospital says critical. Russell's world tilted, betrayal warring with ache. Drive or stay? The road unspooled south. Snowmelt rivers raging parallels to his turmoil. Atlanta's sprawl swallowed him. Sterile halls reeking of regret. Lewis lay pale in ICU. Tubes snaking like accusations. Bruises blooming from the crash. Jake's warning. Whispers from nurses said. A tailgating semi. Eyes fluttering open. Lewis croaked. Russ? You came. Couldn't not, Russell admitted, gripping the rail. Why, Lou? The money, the lies. Tears tracked. Jake blackmailed. Dad's treatment experimental off books. I borrowed, promised favors. Evelyn sniffed it, leveraged. Thought I could fix it quiet. Keep us safe. Safe. Russell's laugh cracked. You sold us. Forgive. Lewis wheezed, hand-seeking. Not yet. But Russell stayed. Vigil through beeps and blooms. Love's embers refusing extinction. Discharge brought fragile truce. Lewis to a motel, Russell north, calls tentative lifelines. Spring green tentative, but Evelyn struck anew. Lawsuit filed, claiming fraud, journals, stolen evidence. Court reconvened. Sweltering June. Evelyn smug in silk. Her star witness? Jake Reeves, Lewis's brother, testifying with oily charm. My brother's unstable. Crash proves it. Farm's a front for their lifestyle. Russell's turned scorched. Footage, ledgers, Lewis's sworn affidavit from rehab. Clean break from Jake. Restitution paid. This ain't about land, he told the judge, voice steady. It's vengeance. For loving wrong in their eyes. Gavel. Dismissal. Sanctions on Evelyn. Victory hollow, though, as Lewis watched from the back. Gaunt but present. Post-hearing. Parking lot confessional. I broke us. Can we rebuild? Russell searched his soul, mountains calling home. Maybe, but trusts a slow grow, like these hills. Summer scorched the Appalachians into a haze of heat and honeysuckle. The farm a verdant sprawl demanding sweat and surrender. Russell threw himself into solo labors. Hay baling till dusk painted him gold, irrigation lines snaking like lifelines through parched earth. The rhythm a penance, each swing of the scythe severing ties to betrayal's sting. Lewis lingered in limbo, Atlanta's pull warring with the farm's whisper. Weekly drives bridging the gulf. Picnics at the Overlook, talks threading vulnerability like embroidery on frayed cloth. I see a therapist now, Lewis confessed one sticky afternoon. Sprawled on a quilt amid wildflowers. Mason jars of iced tea sweating beads. Unpacking the Reeves legacy. Dad's gone, Jake's cut off. It's freeing, terrifying. Russell nodded. Plucking a daisy. twirling it absently. Good. We can't graft poison onto new roots. Their hands met, tentative, the touch sparking memory's warmth without demand. No rush to reclaim beds. Healing paced itself, slow as sap rising. Evelyn's defeat festered, though appeal filed, her Nashville machine grinding gears. Whispers reached town. Developers circling, lured by mineral buzz, Evelyn's front. Harlan tipped Russell off over coffee at the diner. She's rallying old Brooks allies. Says the farm's cursed under your watch. Queer influence. They mutter. Russell's grip tightened on the mug. Let 'em mutter. Soil don't care about sermons. But the pressure mounted. Anonymous calls fracturing nights. Heavy breaths, slurs hissed like steam. Abomination's land ain't blessed. Vandalism followed. Fence posts splintered. Sinner, scrawled in spray paint across the barn. Russell scrubbed till raw. Lewis arriving unannounced to help. Silence companionable in labor. One violet evening, as they painted over the hate, Lewis paused, roller dripping. This your life now? Hiding scars. Always was, Russell said, dipping his brush. But with you, feels worth it. Lips met then, soft as forgiveness, deepening to anchor. They tumbled into the hayloft after. Not for passion's fire but comfort's glow, bodies entwining in rediscovery. Breaths sinking like a duet long rehearsed. Dawn found them tangled, sunlight slanting golden promises. Emboldened, Sanctuary Ridge revived. Lewis's designs dusted off, Russell posting calls for queer homesteaders on discreet forums. First respondent. Mia, a trans artist fleeing California costs, arriving with easel and grit. Then Theo, a black veteran nursing PTSD. His quiet strength a farmyard bomb. The land swelled with life. Communal suppers under string lights, stories shared like heirlooms, laughter echoing off peaks. Evelyn's counterpunch landed in August. Injunction hearing, her lawyer brandishing witnesses to Russell's debauchery. Courtrooms sweltered, fans whirring futile, as locals testified. Old-timers bought or bullied, painting Russell as predator, Lewis his corrupting consort. Seen him at it in the fields, one leered, Evelyn nodding smug. Russell's rebuttal burned. Character letters from Mia, Theo, Harlan himself. This man's heart's as true as these mountains, the deputy averred. Lewis took the stand, voice steady. Love ain't sin, it's salvation. Evelyn, she's the trespasser, stealing peace for profit. Judge, a grizzled vet with kind eyes, dissolved the injunction. Enough theater, farm stands. Cheers erupted from sanctuary allies in the hall. Evelyn fleeing red-faced. Elation crested that night. Bonfire on the ridge, flames leaping like liberated spirits, fiddles wailing bluegrass under stars. Russell pulled Lewis aside, into the shadowed pines, hearts hammering tandem. Marry me, he rasped. Ring improvised from twisted vine. Here now our way. Lewis's yes dissolved in tears, vows exchanged to cricket chorus. Till death, through storms. The community bore witness unwitting, toasts raised to new beginnings. But autumn winds carried treachery's scent. October mailed a package, anonymous, brown-wrapped. Inside photos grainy but damning. Russell and Lewis, intimate in the hayloft, time-stamped pre-betrayal. Note, leverage. Sell Sanctuary South 40, or these go viral. Family values prevail. Horror hollowed Russell. Blackmail, queer edition, outing them to the world, doxing the haven. He confronted Lewis at dawn. Photos splayed like cards in a losing hand. She got these how? Lewis blanched, scanning. Drones? Or, wait. His finger froze on a date. Before the crash, I hired a surveyor. Discreet. But if Jake. Spit it. Russell's voice cracked whip. Jake tailed me once post-therapy. Snapped pics for ammo. Must have traded to Evelyn. Fury crested, trust's dam bursting. Your brother's poison seeps everywhere. How many loans? Lou. How deep the web? Lewis recoiled. It's severed. I swear. Swears break easy. Russell stormed out, ATV roaring to the overlook, wind lashing accusations. Hours later, contrition called him back, but Lewis was gone. Truck vanished. Note, need space. Sorting Jake for good. Trust me. Doubt nod, but action surged. Russell wired the PI. Full trace on Jake, Evelyn's comms. Results chilled. Encrypted emails, Jake to Evelyn, photos attached. Push the sale, my cut funds dad's grave. Lewis's name clean, no ties. Relief ward with ache. November's first frostbit. Sanctuary dwellers sensing the rift, offering quiet support. Mia's art therapy sketches. Theo's fishing trips pulling truths from quiet waters. Russell confessed piecemeal, their solidarity a quilt against cold. Lewis returned mid-month, hollow-cheeked, envelope in hand. Jake's done. Confronted him, recorded confession. He's turning state's evidence on Evelyn's fraud. Immunity deal. Photos destroyed. Proof scanned genuine. Russell's walls crumbled. Embrace fierce, sobs mingling. Scared I'd lost you. Never. Lewis's whisper vow. But Evelyn's endgame loomed. Final hearing. Her empire crumbling under federal eyes for tax dodges tied to the blackmail. December dawned crisp. The farm a jewel in snow. Court climax dramatic. Evelyn, cornered, crumbling on stand, tears crocodile. Marcus would have wanted. Justice, the prosecutor cut. Charges stuck. Harassment, extortion. Sentence, probation, restitution. Sanctuary's South 40 bought cheap. Expanded. Freedom tasted like pine and promise. New Year's Eve, under aurora-veiled skies, Russell and Lewis renewed rings. Simple bands, engraved, Sanctuary. The community danced, fires roaring, love's anthem defying dark. Yet, in quiet moments, scars whispered. Betrayal's echo, forgiveness's fragility. Russell traced Lewis's palm by firelight. We made it. Barely. Lewis smiled soft. But together? Unbreakable. The new year unfolded like a long-held breath released. Sanctuary ridge blooming from seed to stronghold under winter's reluctant thaw. Russell and Lewis poured reinvigorated sweat into the land, erecting cabins from reclaimed timber, each a testament to resilience, etched with donors' stories. For the boy who ran, one plaque read, Mia's handiwork. Residents trickled in. A non-binary coder from Seattle, a lesbian couple from the Rust Belt. Their arrivals marked by potlucks where recipes bridged divides, laughter thawing the holler's hush. Russell found rhythm in mentorship, teaching axe work to the coder, Eli, whose city hands blistered but held. It's not just wood, he'd say, swing demonstrating. It's claiming space, your space. Eli's nod, eyes bright, mirrored Russell's own reclamation. Lewis orchestrated the builds, blueprints evolving with input. Green roofs blooming sedum, communal hall with rainbow mosaic windows catching light like prisms of pride. Their love deepened in domestic poetry. Mornings with coffee on the porch, Lewis sketching while Russell read aloud from grandfather's journals, voices weaving past and present. Intimacy flowered gentle, stolen touches amid chores. Nights where bodies conversed in murmurs, reaffirming bonds forged in fire. You're my North Star, Lewis breathed once, fingers tracing Russell's collarbone under sheets soft as absolution. Evelyn's shadow lingered faint, her probation a muzzle, but ripples persisted. Tabloid whispers of mountain queer commune, drawing curious day trippers and veiled threats. Harlan patrolled extra, badge a shield, while Russell beef security, drones now, ethical eyes in the sky. One balmy March eve, as dogwoods erupted pink, a rally formed at the gate. Church folks from town, signs braying, Sodom on the slope, Pastor Hale, red-faced relic, megaphone amplified scripture. Russell faced them calm, Lewis at his side, sanctuary folk arrayed behind like a colorful phalanx. This land welcomes all weary, Russell called, voice carrying steady. Hate don't plant roots here. Hale sneered. Pervert's paradise. We'll pray it to ruin. But prayers faltered against unity. Mia live-streamed, hashtags trending sanctuary stands, allies mobilizing from Knoxville Pride to national orgs. By nightfall, counter-protesters outnumbered, rainbow flags waving triumph, the pastor slinking off defeated. Victory bonfire that night burned hot, songs rising defiant, Russell pulling Lewis into dance, hips swaying to fiddle's wail, love a public declaration under moon's benign gaze. Spring swelled bountiful, gardens yielding kale and kaleidoscopes of color, farmers' markets in Gatlinburg buzzing with sanctuary wares, jams, soaps, stories sold alongside. Revenue trickled, funding scholarships for new arrivals. But mid-May, fracture revisited. Lewis's phone rang during supper, caller ID unknown, ATL. He silenced it, but Russell caught the flinch. Jake. Lewis paled. Blocked him months back. Must be spoof. Doubt's vine crept, but trust prevailed, until the letter, forwarded from an old Nashville P.O. box. Jake's scrawl, postmark prison. Little bro, immunity's a bitch. Fed squeezed. Spilled on Evelyn, but your farm? That South 40 deal? It was wired wrong, title glitch. She's got a loophole, claims reversion. Sell out time or lose it all. Heart stutter sank. Russell confronted, letter waved like indictment. Another surprise? How many skeletons, Lou? It's fabricated. Lewis protested, scanning frantic. Jake's rotting. Desperate lies for attention. Check it. Russell thrust his phone. Lewis dialed the lawyer. Speaker on. Carla's voice crackling confirmation. Loophole exists. Minor, but exploitable. Evelyn's team sniffing. Betrayal's ghost resurrected. Russell's roar shaking rafters. You knew. That confession. Smoke screen. No, God, Russ, I swear. Lewis reached, rebuffed. Swears again. Out. The guest cabin echoed once more. Lewis departing tear-streaked. Truck taillights fading into twilight. Isolation clawed. Sanctuary's cheer grating. Russell withdrew, work mechanical, smiles strained. Residents rallied subtle. Theo's whiskey shared on the porch, words gruff-wise. Love's a battlefield, son. Scars don't disqualify. Eli added art. A mural on the hall, mountains cradling figures diverse, intertwined. Resilience rendered vivid. Mia hosted circles. Russell joining reluctant. Voices coaxing his. He lied to protect, but it hurts same. Weeks ground, Lewis's texts unanswered. Miss you. Fixing this. Please. June's heat mirrored inner boil, until Carla called. Loophole closed. Forged doc from Jake. Prison trace. Evelyn's lawyer disbarred. She's fleeing charges. Vindication hollow without Lewis. Russell drove south unbidden. Atlanta's glare assaulting. Motel neon beckoning. Lewis opened the door hollow-eyed. Stubble shadowing. You came. Need truth. All of it. They talked till dawn. Bourbon loosening tongues. Jake's final ploy. A bid for parole favor. Lewis's silence. Fear of history's repeat. I ran to you for haven, Lewis confessed. Won't bolt again. Forgiveness flowered tentative. Drive home a mending road. Sanctuary welcomed arms open. Communal meal toasting return. But July tested anew. Wildfire sparked by lightning, devouring ridges. Smoke choking the holler. Evac orders blared. Flames licking fences. Ash raining like grim confetti. Chaos reigned. Horses panicked. Gardens smoldering. Cabins threatened. Russell orchestrated. Hoses manned. Wet blankets draped. ATVs ferrying supplies. Lewis shone, directing wind shifts, drones spotting hotspots. Through Inferno's roar, they locked eyes across the line. Partnership primal. Blaze crested at dawn. Rain's dousing fury. The farm scarred but standing. Acres charred, but core intact. Surveying damage, soot-streaked. Russell clasped Lewis's hand. We burned clean. Autumn gilded triumphs. Harvest festival a riot of color and song. Sanctuary's first wedding. Mia to her poet love. Vows under arch of woven vines. Russell and Lewis officiated unofficial. Their union the unspoken heart. November whispered peace. Leaves carpeting paths like thankful sighs. One frost-kissed night, by the fire Lewis knelt anew. Proper this time. Ring glinted silver, etched mountains. Marry me legal, Russ. Vows for the world. Tears pricked. Yes, every day. December's solstice party swelled. Lights strung valley-wide. Toasts to endurance. As midnight tolled, snow feathering gentle, Russell drew Lewis to the overlook. Rings exchanged formal under stars. Kisses sealing eternal. The wedding anchored them, a ceremony in spring's tender embrace. April 2026. Under a dogwood canopy on the ridge, sanctuary focus family, Harlan officiating with gruff humor. Vows rang true. Russell's, I'll till this earth with you, through flood and fire. Lewis's, I'll design our tomorrows, brick by unyielding brick. Rings slid home, simple gold warmed by hands that knew hardships forge. The kiss drew cheers, confetti of petals swirling, a reception of barbecue and bluegrass stretching till stars wheeled. Life post-vows deepened domestic poetry into legacy. Sanctuary burgeoned, 10 cabins now, a co-op market vending heirloom seeds and handmade pride flags, workshops on queer homesteading drawing crowds from coasts. Russell mentored youth programs, teens from Tennessee Bible Belts finding mirrors in his scars, Lewis lecturing on sustainable design at Knoxville colleges. His TEDx talk, Building Havens in Hostile Lands, going viral, quieting old Atlanta echoes. Challenges lingered, human as breath. A resident's relapse, Theo's nightmares flaring in thunder, Mia's grant fights. But community wove tighter, support circles a safety net. Russell and Lewis navigated their own tempests. Anniversary spats over expansion pace, Lewis's wanderlust pangs, but always circled back, date nights hiking to the overlook, rekindling with wine and whispers. Evelyn's fall rippled final. Summer trial, her testimony a unraveling tapestry of greed and grief, sentence 5 years white collar, asset forfeiture funding sanctuary scholarships. A letter arrived probationary, postscript from her cell. Marcus haunts me still. Your love is what he craved, denied. Peace, Russell. He burned it unopened, ashes to the wind. Forgiveness his, not hers. Fall brought first crisis of scale. Developer consortium, backed by State Tourism Board, eyeing expansion, resort sprawl swallowing the South 40. Offers poured, gilded with partnership lures. Town hall erupted, Pastor Hale's flock chanting exclusion. But sanctuary mobilized. Petitions, protests, Eli's viral videos humanizing the haven. Russell testified fierce. This ain't just land. It's lives reclaimed. Bulldoze us, you bury hope. Lewis's slides projected futures. Ecolodges, not McMansions, preserving peaks. Allies amplified, national press. Celebrity queer icons donating airtime. Board relented, zoning protected, the 40 deeded community trust. Winter 2026 tested cores. Lewis's diagnosis, early Lyme from a tick bite, months of antibiotics blurring to fog. Russell tended vigilant, broths and bedpans. Sanctuary pitching in with meals and morale. Feels like payback, Lewis joked Juan, for dripping. My turn to lean. You always could, Russell murmured, holding vigil. Love a steadfast nurse. Recovery slow but sure. Spring finding Lewis sketching again. Vigor renewed. Gratitude etching deeper lines. By summer's end, sanctuary hit milestone. 20th resident. A elder gay couple from Florida. Their stories of Stonewall bridging generations. Grand opening of the Marcus Memorial Grove. Ironic reclamation. Trees planted in honor of lost brothers. Plaques reading, for those who couldn't stay. One August dusk, as fireflies ignited, Russell and Lewis walked the grove. Hands linked, fireflies mirroring their spark. Think he'd approve? Lewis asked, touching a sapling. Marcus? Hell, he'd envy. Russell pulled him close, kiss lingering. We built what he couldn't dream. Autumn harvested abundance. Festival swelling regional. Drawing families. Tentative parents meeting sons and daughters whole. A quiet November night. Snow dusting early. Found them on the porch swing. Quilt wrapped. Hot cider steaming. Regrets. Lewis ventured, head on shoulder. None. Russell's arm tightened. You. Only that it took mountains to find you. December closed the circle. Solstice gathering, lanterns floating heavenward, wishes whispered for endurance. As embers died, Russell raised a toast. To trespassers turned teachers, betrayals burned to ash, loves that root deep. Cheers echoed, unity a chorus. Later, in bed's sanctuary, bodies entwined, Russell traced Lewis's ring. Forever starts now. Always has, Lewis replied, sleep claiming gentle. Years unfurled tapestry rich. Sanctuary a beacon, expansions to sister sites in Carolina Hills. Russell's memoir Roots of Rebellion, a bestseller. Lewis's firm thriving on ethical builds. Trials tempered. Losses like Theo's passing, peaceful in his cabin. Honored with a ridge overlook bearing his name. Joys like Eli's adoption, a found family blooming. In twilight of life, gray threading hair, they sat the overlook, hands veined maps of journey. Best decision, Russell murmured, sunset gilding valleys. Loving you, Lewis smiled, eyes eternal obsidian. Claiming this mountain. Below, lights twinkled, sanctuaries glow. A legacy lit by two men's defiant flame. In America's wild heart, love proved not fragile bloom, but enduring oak, bent by storms, unbroken, roots entwining forever.